Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the LFC transfer room. Apologies for the lateness. My camera didn't want to connect. My fault. I'll take full responsibility. Steal, dock my pay or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But yeah, it is what it is. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're watching it on Twitter, come over to YouTube and you can actually get involved in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube already, get your comments in, questions, anything that you want to bring in, and I will put it up on the screen for you. Joined today, Willem, Anil. I completely forgot. I nearly said William then, but I'm really sorry for that. But Willem, you're good?
Honestly, mate, it's not an issue for especially imagine for me, right, living in Spain, how many people butcher my name not even being able to say it. So I'll take anything at this point, mate. I'm all good with it.
Winner. And Anil, you're right, man?
I'm okay, man. I'm okay. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I'm braving on. And yeah,
Plodding along. Top banana, right? But yeah, so we've got a few bits to discuss. I foolishly thought it was a slow day. I put in our group earlier on saying, "Oh, it seems like a bit of a slow day. This, what are we going to discuss?" And then Steve decided to rightfully point out that has been anything but a slow day and proceeded to send me about 4 different stories that have gone on. And yeah, I completely missed a few bits. I've put them in this. We're going to discuss them today. Jamie says, "Hello, everyone. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween." I completely forgot about that, to be honest. I had a shirt. I forgot to change, and now it's too late because we're live, and I'm nothing if not professional, and I'm not going to leave to go change. And Jason says, "Tchouameni would be great playing for Liverpool, a good playing for Liverpool." And that is what the first thing we're going to discuss today is, because Tchouameni, we all know Tchouameni. We tried to sign him a few seasons ago to disastrous circumstances. I think it was someone can correct me in the comments. I think it was 2022 or 2021. It was one or the other. We tried to sign him back when he was at Monaco.
Yeah.
Monaco. Yeah.
You got it spot on, mate.
Monaco.
You got the year on spot on and the club spot on.
Who says I'm not professional? Have this. But yeah, we tried to sign Tchouameni a few seasons ago. Didn't go very well. He instead went to Real Madrid, which seems to be the story of a lot of players that we tried to sign in the past. But apparently, according to sources, Real Madrid are happy to let the player go. I'll cast onto my screen now just to show you the actual story over on the LFC Transfer Room Twitter, if you haven't followed it already, which I doubt you haven't because you're watching us here. But yeah, as you can see on the screen right now, Real Madrid are open to considering offers for Tchouameni. Would you consider him at Liverpool, given that the Reds will link to him many times? And I suppose this is the big question, Willem. I'll start with you because Tchouameni is someone who we've been linked with for a long time. We all know what he's about. We're going to go into detail on it, but what do you make of the news that we're linked once again to the deep line midfielder, this time while he's at Real Madrid?
I mean, to be honest, it doesn't really surprise me because I actually, from the past couple of years that I have watched Madrid, I will be honest, I necessarily haven't been too impressed with him either whilst he's playing, and especially living here, knowing the patience that the fans of Madrid tend to have for these kind of players and signings that they make. I felt like this moment would be coming. If it comes over to the part of us signing him, I'm very much now at the point where I'm like, I don't know if I want to sign a player who's rejected us in the first place, kind of anyways, unless, look, I think you can make some exceptions to the rule, but I think it would have to be like an Mbappe category kind of exception to the rule. And I don't know. I've mixed feelings about it because I'm like, if I think back about it and I look at, for example, a profile like Tchouameni, would I take him ahead of him? Yes, I would. But slowly, I've also kind of been looking at some other options, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need to go for me. We don't need to go for Tchouameni necessarily when there are a few other players out there which I think could do just as good of a job for us. So that's kind of at the point now where my stance is against it. I wouldn't be like super angry or anything if we signed him. It would still be a good signing, but I think that's kind of now my stance on with him, where I'm not too bothered about signing him anymore.
Well, you said then that there were players that we can, and this is just, it's up for debate because I think I'm in the same sort of bracket. But the only thing on that I sort of want to push against is you said, like, Tchouameni, there's other options out there for us to go for. But at the moment in the market, we were linked to Andre not too long ago. Endo ended up being our player that we came in for, obviously Tchouameni. But what other alternatives are there then, if not Tchouameni, in terms of a CDM?
Well, I've been driving the Belieber hype train now for a few months. I'm not gonna lie, so that would be my first option right now going away. To be honest, I'm so shameless with it. I pick a different hype train on a player every few months where I'm just like, yes, that's a position we need. That's who I want now, and that's just kind of it. And then it stays that way. I do think that as well. There are like it also just kind of depends on the profile of it, because if you look at it right now, the way that we're set up with McAllister and with Gravenberch right now, I think whilst yes, it is important, obviously, that both in the style of football and the possession-based style, they also maintain the ball. I do still think the one kind of part that misses in our midfield, which Endo is kind of just too much of a downgrade from our starting players and our starting players kind of don't have it, is really that defensive specialist, but that obviously brings up some other qualities as well. I think for now, for me, the obvious option is Believer, but I think there's a few other players in general where you can just kind of keep your eye on it. I'd be keeping an eye on Koilmund Sporting, because a couple of Sporting players now will probably likely also be looking to maybe move away if Ruben Amorim's deal goes through to United. Which, by the way, I also find very funny that it's getting told as a done deal yet, but he himself is still saying, no, not yet. I've got nothing to announce. So I'm hoping there might be a bit of a...
Yeah, he's not going to come out and go, yep, done deal, done and dusted, like before it's done, is he?
I don't know. I mean, hey, our gaffer did. Slot did. The minute we got linked to Slot in his press conference, he said immediately, he went, hey, look, I want to go to Liverpool. I want to go there.
Yeah,
so,
true.
you know, there is a way of going about it. I don't think so at the end. I'm just kind of hoping one other club has kind of a saga with a player and a manager where it kind of goes the other way at the end instead of us. So I think that's also kind of what I'm clinging on to. But I think there are definitely a few options just as well overall in the season with the ages these players are at, to kind of keep an eye on them for the season and see where it kind of goes to. I think Tchouameni you could use it as a leverage option for one of the other options maybe in January or in the summer, where negotiating with other clubs, if they negotiate too high of a fee, you can always say, well, Madrid are actually only asking this for this player, so we only want to pay that, and kind of using your leverage there.
Well, I mean, Arnold, do you agree with what Willem's saying? I mean, Tchouameni seems like he's a very good ball playing midfielder from what we can sort of understand or from what we've seen. But do you agree with the sentiment, or is he, Tchouameni is someone who you're thinking, oh, yeah, definitely get him through the door like as soon as possible? This would be perfect for us.
I think when we first linked with him, I was desperate for him to come because I thought he was the type of player that would transform us. And I do think sometimes, what if we did get him at the time and he didn't go to Real Madrid, because we have more league titles and things like that. But I think things have changed now. We've got a new manager. We're playing a different style of football, and I agree. I like Tchouameni because I think the type of style of player he is, I think he'll bring more out of basically more of what we want as a perfect slot type midfielder. So I'd much rather we go for someone like Tchouameni than go for Tchouameni. But for me, I think the midfield needs strengthening. I think we need more quality in the midfield areas. So I wouldn't turn that down if Tchouameni is available, because he's a top player in the day, and I like the idea that he can play centre back as well. That gives us extra option in games and stuff when we rotate players and stuff like that. He's a top player, so I wouldn't be completely against it. I think our midfield this season so far has been really good. Gravenberch has been exceptional. I like McAllister. McAllister's a really good player, and then Szoboszlai, he's off the ball, he's really good. But I think the midfield still can improve. It still can improve. So I wanted to address that midfield area as soon as possible. So I'll still take him. I'm very happy to take him, but I would prefer somebody like Tchouameni.
There's someone who's a bit more of a ball playing kind of midfield, speak.
Yeah.
Well, I'm keeping it with you then, man. I mean, like Tchouameni, you've got to. What were we touted with Zubamendi? It was around 50, 60 million. That was around about the talked about price. Now,
£51 million release clause, I think.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm so dreadful today with stats, but yeah, like,
it's fine. I normally got to do the financial conversion from euros to pounds, so that's why they just stick in my head every time I do it because I have to keep an eye on both.
It benefits me. It benefits me, and that's the main thing tonight. So, but like making me look good. But like Tchouameni is surely, Anna, like even if Madrid are listing him, he's surely going to cost a lot of money. He's not in a winding down contract. He's still a good age. He's a player who I think a lot of clubs would be sort of lucky to have. So surely Madrid are still going to ramp up the price.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're looking to paying at least like 65 million plus. So, without owning with FSG, it's not going to be easy for us to be spending that kind of money. But at the same time, they have shown in the past as well. If he's the right type of player, we will spend the money. And like I said, we were heavily linked with him in the past, so he might be a player that because he's available, we're like, fuck it, why not? Let's go back for him and just get him in because he's a top player in the day.
So, like, I've got on my screen now it's a very sort of convoluted way of which I'm going to show it, because I did try and do like a bit of a comparison thing, but it just didn't work, and it's going to be a screen share thing again. It does seem to be something that I'm absolutely obsessed with at the minute, but there we go. So we got Tchouameni's stats here on the screen right now. So he's a solid player all round in pretty much most departments. Ignore his attacking ones. We're looking mainly at the passing and the defensive aspect of his game. So he's averaging 80. He's in the top 85% for passes attempted per match. He's also in the top 97% for passes completed, top 60% for progressive, and then his actual defensive stats, which is the thing that I think a lot of people are looking at the moment in a number 6. Top 91% for interceptions, top 90 for clearances, top 91% for aerials won. And this is over Europe's top 5 leagues over the past 365 days. So you've got La Liga, the Premier League, the Bundesliga, the Italian League, and it's not the Eredivisie, the French League, or something like the top 5 or 6 leagues that it's based on. But then if we go on to Martin Zubamendi, the one who we're all really wanting, or that a lot of people are wanting, he's actually not too much better than Tchouameni. In fact, Tchouameni actually has better stats. Tchouameni's got better passes attempted, better pass completion, better defensive numbers in pretty much all aspects. It's just Zubamendi seems to be a bit more well-rounded. Tchouameni seems to be sort of, he has 1 or 2 that he's really bad at, and then 5 or 6 that he absolutely excels at. Now, with it being a slot system, Willem, where it does seem to be he wants his number 6 not to be a defensive powerhouse like Klopp did with like Fabinho and Endo coming in. He wants someone who's able to progress the ball in like a pivot, win it back, and get it moving forward. Do those stats back up the fact that maybe Tchouameni would be a better player for Liverpool than Zubamendi would?
I mean, kind of based on what you said, no, it would actually be Zubamendi.
Okay.
But I think because it would fit more of the overall, because like you said yourself, it's not an out and out defensive powerhouse that kind of we're looking for now at the 6. It's someone who's very good, who is better skilled defensively than Gravenberch and McAllister, I'd say. Now, for McAllister, statistically, it's actually quite hard to do because on paper, his stats are really good. And like often for me, especially on this season, like we've been giving Gravenberch all the praise, but McAllister's been holding up his own in that midfield as well. And I do think kind of in a more of a ball retentive way and keeping the possession whilst also being able to make those defensive moves, I think Zubamendi would be the best option out of it. I mean, I said it last summer once Slot came in, and kind of once they gave the first indication of what Slot wanted from his 6 and what he kind of wanted in the style, my first reaction was immediately, it was on streaming with Stephen, where I said, well, then Zubamendi's the one, because that is technically what fits the profile perfectly. So I do think if we're purely basing it off that with the numbers and kind of stylistically how they play, I think Zubamendi would still be a better fit than Tchouameni right now. But then again, even with 𝗢𝗎mendy as well, 𝗢𝗎mendy's not. There's not a lot of players actually that kind of play the same way that he does, in the sense that he is solid defensively but doesn't stand out defensively. But the way he handles the ball and the way he carries the ball is pretty much exceptional. There's very few players who do the same. So profile-wise, that would be the better fit. But again, I'd be happy with both coming in, to be honest. One of the two at least. I'm not going to complain if it's going to be Tchouameni at all.
Which one are you thinking would be the more realistic of the two?
Well, price-wise, wages-wise, everything together, it would still probably be 𝗢𝗎mendy, but 𝗢𝗎mendy won't leave the mountains. So it would come down to 𝗢𝗎mendy, because 𝗢𝗎mendy would be more willing to move, I think.
Yeah, and that does seem to be the sort of overriding story, is that he doesn't really see himself in this squad going forward. They've got obviously Camavinga, Jude Bellingham's there, but you've got to think that Arnold, that one reason that Tchouameni may decide to stay is Madrid this season have been pretty poor. That Barcelona game the other day just sort of peaked off how bad they've actually been this season in terms of their play style, the way they're progressing. Ancelotti is not getting any younger. Modric isn't getting any younger. Obviously, Toni Kroos has just retired. Like, there may still be a way for him to fight into this Madrid team, surely. So is that something that he's got to factor into his decision-making as to whether he leaves or not?
Yeah, definitely, because he's a very good player. And like you said, Rome are struggling, so why would they get rid of a player who's very good for them? But I think like Real Madrid, they're always looking for the next superstar right now. So they might be looking at like Rodri winning the Ballon d'Or. It was an expense of their own players, but might be looking at that and thinking, they want to get the next top superstar in and get Rodri in, try and win the fans over, So yeah, like when I saw it as well, I was thinking, what, Real Madrid want to get rid of him? It didn't make sense to me, but because he's the top player, ain't he? The top player. But yeah, I think like if he's available, why not go for it? I'm not against it at all. I just think, like, as William said, like 𝗢𝗎mendy, I don't know if I say his name properly. He can play that role quite well. He can. He's really good. Like he's a complete midfielder, and he can do all different type of things.
Yeah.
So if he does come, I'm very happy about it. Just that for Arnie slots like perfect six, I think 𝗢𝗎mendy, he's the guy that we want. He's the number one guy. So I wanted to get the number one guy. I wanted to get the best type of six we can get for slot system, and I think 𝗢𝗎mendy might be more stylistically better fit. Like I think sometimes as well this season, the games, I think Slot might be happy with what he's seen from us so far, but if he probably wants more control, and I think 𝗢𝗎mendy will do that, like in terms of possession and keeping the ball and just dominating. I think 𝗢𝗎mendy could take it to a different level.
Yeah, and it's interesting there because you said about, you want our number one pick, but it wasn't that long ago that Tchouameni was our number one pick, so to speak, and it just didn't go well. So it's a clear, obvious sign how much he has declined, so to speak, and sort of he's not viewed as high in Madrid's plan. Oliver says, once these players have been through the Madrid system, they're tainted goods, in my opinion. I can't think of a single player who's left Madrid and hasn't been a major headache, not even Ozil. And that's actually a really good point. Like, if anyone can think of anyone who's been through that system and come out better the other side, I mean, you could, Xabi Alonso being one, I suppose. He went to Bayern and it went really well. Maybe Casillas is another one, but there are very few players who do come through that Madrid.
I'd say arguably as well Di Maria, but it would be after the Man United period as well, kind of way he would have, because he did have quite a resurgence after it, to be fair. And for Argentina, he was class after it as well. Yeah,
I was thinking maybe Higuain. Like he wasn't a top player, but he was very good after Real Madrid.
I can tell you from growing up here, Higuain was hated. He was not. They did not like him whatsoever. They were very happy to get rid of him at that time. I remember there was a lot of men ended up bald here in Spain from seeing Higuain play for about 2 years.
He didn't have a great time. Like looking back, like it is a proper blip on his career, that Madrid spell, and I didn't realize until I was researching the other day. I was like, bloody hell! Like I didn't realize how bad he was for Madrid.
Yeah.
I mean, That's an interesting game. If anyone can think of anyone, comment. The only other one that's popping to my mind is Fabinho. He did go to Madrid for a little bit and then obviously came to us not too long afterwards. But if anyone can think of anyone else, by all means, crack on. Just before we carry on with the Tchouameni thing, Jamie says the Quansah abuse post-match yesterday was pretty shameful. One mistake and bad deflection, but his underlying numbers in the match were great. He's not played in a while as well. And I suppose we could touch on that for a minute, actually, because it is a really interesting point, Willem, that I do feel bad for Quansah. I think that Ipswich game sort of put the dampener on him, that very first match. But you've got what people need to understand is. Sorry, I've sort of stolen it a little bit, but I'll get your thoughts in a second. It's just Quansah he's spent his whole career learning the Klopp system because obviously he's been in Liverpool's youth teams. He's had one season in the first team, and then the manager who he's been learning from for years and learning his style of play for years has left, and then this new manager's come in. This is technically for him the first time during his Liverpool career that he's learning from someone different in terms of play style. So he's going to need time to adapt. Like, do you understand the Quansah criticism to an extent, or is it just people are, cutting off the nose despite their face?
I mean, there's two ways of kind of looking at it. Did he have a good game yesterday? Overall, for me, up until the 75th minute, I thought Quansah was fine. Nothing special either. Like, it was just a fine, solid performance.
Reliable.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, I was actually more scared of seeing Gomez back at centre back again, because obviously the last couple of times we've seen Gomez at centre back, they haven't been the greatest appearances, to put it in that sense. But I actually thought I was quite surprised actually about how solid Gomez was for playing there once again. It's like you said as well. He's a very young player. He's literally had his first season come with us. I mean, let's just take 𝗢𝗣𝗘𝗓 as an example. Let's take his first couple of seasons coming in. Like 𝗢𝗣𝗘𝗓 now we're all gagging for him to come back into the squad because we are, because we're like we think Szoboszlai with his output hasn't been good enough, and we really think that 𝗢𝗣𝗘𝗓 could be doing really well in that role. Whereas a few years ago when he was playing as an 8 in a Klopp system, it was the exact same. I remember every week seeing it as well. Can't be playing 𝗢𝗣𝗓𝗢𝗑's a liability. We get nothing in midfield. We're not getting anything there. And, these players are really young. They're still having to adapt to everything around them. And you see it with loads of young players. They might have a brilliant first season, and then the second season, they kind of get a struggle. And throughout those seasons coming up again, they improve all the time. So I think it's the same for Quansah. I do agree, actually, with the decision Slot made to take him off in the last couple of minutes yesterday, but more in the sense that after that second goal with the deflection, looking at Quansah, just his body language and how he just absolutely just deflated into the pitch, and kind of it looked like he wanted the pitch to kind of just suck him up and evaporate him from the game. So I do think it was a good decision just to take him off, because I think what Klopp kind of had, where he had his sentimentality to keep the boys on, it would sometimes cost us games. Like Aston Villa last year when we played at Villa Park really jumps into mind, where we had the 3-1 lead. And there were one or two players, and I don't even remember which ones, to be fair. I don't remember who it was in the game, but I just remember saying, if we just make one or two changes, kind of shut everything up, make sure that we see out of the game, it should be fine. And we didn't, and we kept the players on, and a combination of the inexperience, the fatigue, and everything going through cost us that game and made it. And in the end, we ended up drawing the game 3-3 from a position that we should have never lost. And I think that's just also something that comes along with it. Quansah will be fine. Quansah will get his moments. He will come back into the rotation. And I mean, because as much as I'd like it to happen, let's be honest here, I think we all know that 𝗢𝗣𝗓𝗡 is not going to stay fit for the whole season. So he's also really going to need we're also going to need him at some point. So I think it will come with time.
Yeah, and I think the body language that you touched on is a really big thing, because you've got to think the only game other than this, which he's been really renowned for this season, was that Ipswich game where he was took off at half-time because he was struggling. So in his eyes, it's a new boss who's come in and he's not impressing. So he's going to feel down, and he'll, once again, I'm going to show the screen. I know we've sort of tangented onto another thing, but it is a really interesting point, because I don't think Quansah deserves a lot of the stick that he's getting per se. Now, I've got his stats here just for yesterday. So he played 89 minutes. He made 4 clearances, blocked 2 shots. Yes, he had the error which led to the goal, of course, but he won his 1 ground duel. He won his 1 aerial duel. He was fouled once. He had an 87% pass completion. 2 of his 6 long balls were accurate, which isn't great, but when you consider how many long balls we are playing at the minute, we do play very route 1 at points. It's not awful, 1 in 3. So realistically, he didn't have a bad game, but you know what it's like, defenders and goalkeepers, they make 1 mistake. That's the only thing people remember. Do you think that we will see Quansah in this team more now that we have these incredible fixtures coming up? Or do you think Slot will sort of be looking at this and thinking, maybe Gomez does need to be my number 3 choice again, which might be a bit drastic, but yeah.
I think, as you said, because there are going to be a load of fixtures coming up now, especially over the Christmas period, Quansah will have time. We'll have games where he'll get rotated in. I think Slot still have trust in him and faith in him. So he will get his opportunities. I just think it's very. I feel so sorry for him because, like you said, if Rich got taken off first game of the season, he probably came in really confident. You know, he's going to be the first choice centre back alongside Van Dijk. It didn't work out too well, and then Quansah just took over. So Quansah just needs like a normal game. Just need a normal game where nothing goes wrong, and then from there he'll just keep going. So, but he's just been so unfortunate. He's been having these errors and mistakes coming. Like obviously one of the goals was his pass that led to the goal, but then the second one really unfortunately hit off really when that's not. So I wouldn't really class that as a mistake. And he was okay apart from that. And he's never really played with Joe Gomez before. I think this season has been the first season where he's starting alongside Joe Gomez at centre back. I think that before he must have been playing with just Van Dijk, and so he needs to adjust to that as well. Because obviously Van Dijk does make players around him look better, and he's organising them and things like that. So it's not easy for him. And he's only 21 years old. So I have complete faith in him, and he'll definitely get his opportunities. I think there is a case where he like you said, he could play Gomez over him now. Like Gomez could be the third choice, but I think because of how highly rated Quansah was, I think there's still a chance that Quansah will be the first centre back that comes in, even despite his recent errors.
Yeah, no, I get that, and like it would be a bit harsh, I think, to just throw Quansah out, and how like young players especially need to be nurtured more. I would say they can't just. We've seen so many players who, the minute things go bad, it's just off you pop. We're not bothered anymore, and it would be harsh, I think, to do it to Quansah. Jamie said, please hit the like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment or question in the chat. Yeah, I get some questions in because we've got another one before we move on to our next topic, and that is question: Curtis Jones still takes too many touches on the ball before pass. Can he change? Now, Anna, I'll go with you with this one, and then Willem, I'll go to you because I said it a few weeks ago on this channel. I've said it on my own channel. I've said it on a few things. I think Curtis Jones this season has shown, this was before the Chelsea game, I think he's shown more than Szoboszlai. Now, I do understand that he does take a few too many touches at points, but he's getting an end result from it. That West Ham game in particular, in the Cup, he looked absolutely fantastic. So, I mean, is Jones one of these players where we just need to sort of let him do his thing? Because, yeah, it doesn't come off sometimes, but 7 out of 10 times it does work and something does happen from it.
Yeah, I think let him do his thing. Let him be Curtis Jones, because like some games it's going to work out well. So like against Chelsea, you saw how good Jones was. So I think it's a case of using McAllister in certain matches, like the games where like we're controlling the game, we're going out and they're parking the bus. Those type of games, you want McAllister there. But then the type of game, maybe against the bigger teams like Chelsea, Curtis Jones could be more important and useful. Because of his work rate, his ability to holding onto the ball, and those kind of things that really does help us. So I think Jones is a very good player, and he definitely has his uses, and like there will be games where Jones will be used more. But I think I wouldn't use Jones on the right side where Szoboszlai plays, because I think for that role, Szoboszlai, even though he's not as good on the ball, like he's he messes up a lot with passes, a bit sloppy and stuff. He's right in the way Szoboszlai links with like Trent and Salah. I think Szoboszlai does that role better, even with him not being as good on the ball. I think it's more about like when Elliott comes back, and Elliott can maybe take that role for Szoboszlai. So yeah, I think you could use Jones, but like maybe using the rotation with McAllister.
Willem, what are you making on Curtis Jones then?
I've actually been fine with Curtis Jones being in the squad. To be fair, I think especially for the long term. Look, do I view Curtis Jones as a guaranteed starter for us throughout the next coming years? No, but do I see him as a very good squad option to have to keep him within the rotation and being a scouser who's going to fight for the club until literally he can't or collapses anymore. Like, I think that is someone that you literally need to keep into the squad as well. On the Szoboszlai comment that you made, while Szoboszlai on the ball is poor, I think the Arsenal game actually really showed in the second half when he comes in there that his pressing is second to none. Like, and it is something that really does make a difference in our midfield. And like, we sometimes, because we expect a couple of different things from Szoboszlai, it sometimes kind of goes under the radar, and a lot of us fans don't really look at it, but it is one of Szoboszlai's best traits of just the way he presses, the way he hunts down, goes for the ball. Like it, I don't think we have anyone in the team really who does it like him in that midfield area. To be fair, but I think Jones has been really good. I think more the question with Jones is more, does he play that left hand side of a double pivot, or do you keep him in the 10? Because I think if you keep him in the 10, Jones is probably the closest pressing wise who can do the same as Szoboszlai in that sense. Like Jones' pressing, especially last year as well, we saw it where his pressing just went up another level, and it was really good and consistent. At least when he has the ball, I do get the argument of him retaining the ball too long, still not giving that final pass. I mean, it was against Chelsea, I remember, where there's one ball where I think it was Salah who was off for the run and pretty much would have been through on goal 1-on-1 if he gave the ball earlier, and he holds on to it too long, and then Salah ends up being offside. Those are indeed a typical Curtis Jones moment that you can have every once in a while, where you're like, God damn it, Curtis, just play the ball earlier. But apart, if that is literally the only part where we're really, at least for me, where there's really a complaint in his game, you got to take it and you got to keep it. Like, we have criticism with Szoboszlai for not getting enough numbers from his output for the position that he plays in. There's certain things from Jones that we want, like, every player will have a couple of things where we think they can improve and they think they can be better at. And I think the same goes for Jones. And it's not like it's been a massive downgrade every time Jones has played. I think I'm much more worried at the point when we have to field Endo or even to an extent Morton, even though I thought Morton was really good yesterday, to be fair, when he came on. When we kind of drop off from Curtis Jones further down into the depth from the bench, that is where I worry more than Curtis Jones coming into the team. So for me, I'm completely fine with Curtis Jones being in the squad and being in and around starting positions, to be fair.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, one thing that we've got to remember as well is every Liverpool team has a Scouser in it. It has someone from Liverpool in it. There's no guarantee Trent staying. In fact, the more the comments are coming out about he wants to win a Ballon d'Or and he wants to do this and that, the more it's looking like he's going to leave. You need that player in the team who's going to know what it means to represent the city as a football club, and Jones is one of those players. And that transitions actually quite seamlessly into what we're discussing before of Tchouameni, that he's up for sale. Trent is obviously being linked to Real Madrid. So just throwing the question out there, if Trent is sort of being courted by Madrid, could we use that as leverage in a deal for Tchouameni, so to speak? I'll go to you, Willem, and then I'll ask the same thing to you, Anna. Like, what could we use Trent if he wants to leave, if he's resigned to leave, and could we use him as leverage to bring in a Tchouameni?
I mean, I'd rather do that, to be honest, than let him go on a free anyway, if it is going to be the case. I'm also getting the kind of the same as you, where the longer this kind of drags on and the less we're getting of a contract update. And his quote's coming out at the same time, where I am worried now that I think actually out of the three, he's the least likely to probably stay from the contracts that we have left. And even the other day he was doing an interview just talking about the club and what it was like playing for the club and and to a point, he was already getting kind of like not literally emotional, but you could kind of feel the emotions already come up into his voice.
Sentimental kind of thing.
Yeah, the sentimentality, which for me, normally actually when you kind of look at that and it's a bit of PR done like properly, you kind of look at it and go, oh look, he's still feeling it for the club. He's going to stay. I'm pretty sure. And actually, for me, it's had the complete opposite effect where I'm like, okay, he's already getting sentimental about the club now and the prospect of leaving. I'm afraid that actually doesn't spell a good thing for the long term. But I think, especially if we're in that period in January where he still hasn't signed, we don't know what's going on at that point. And to be honest, if it gets to January, I think most of us know that if this drags out until January, there is a very slim chance that he probably still stays. Just purely on the fact that he can sign a pre-contract as well and stuff and everything. So maybe in that sense, we can kind of use leverage with it. I think it would be handy to do it just purely for the fact as well that they don't have Carvajal for the whole year now. So also in that sense, you could really kind of market it to them like, look, this is a position where you really need it. You really need this guy right now, like to get something out of it. It's not like I want to get rid of Trent. It's not like I don't think any of us want to get rid of Trent. But if Trent's going to make the decision to leave anyway, then we might as well be proactive about it and actually try and get something back for it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we're clearly in the market for that number 6, and losing Trent for nothing would be devastating. But, and I'm not saying he's the same level, of course, we've got Bradley there who can fill in at right back. So it's not like we're losing our only right back and then we're going to be in a scramble. There's another player there ready to jump in just in case, God forbid, Trent does leave. We might as well try and muster something for Tchouameni where we're killing two birds with one stone, essentially. We're getting our number 6 and Trent is getting what he wants. So, Winston saying we can't use Trent as leverage. Leverage is probably the wrong word. I think just using him as a sort of bargaining chip kind of thing and saying, look, you want to get rid of Tchouameni, we need a number 6, but you want Trent. Let's make something happen here. And Anil, I mean, it does make good business sense, but what do you think of it? And realistically, if that does happen, how are you feeling? Are you feeling annoyed at the club for losing Trent, or would you be looking at it as a glass half full and being like, well, we've got a number 6 out of it?
I think similar to Willem, I think like it's better to get something out of it than losing Trent for free. It's just like obviously no one wants to lose Trent. I don't either, but at least this way we got a top player coming in who can improve our midfield. But we should be doing that anyway. We shouldn't have to be in a situation like it shouldn't be like us getting rid of Trent just to get a midfielder in. We should be trying to get a midfielder in regardless of the Trent situation. But at least it means we're getting a top player in, and we're not just losing Trent on a free. As you said, Bradley's a solid player. Maybe I've got a team of faith in my squad players, but I think Bradley, he can do a job for the rest of the season. If Trent goes, he can be fine. Okay, he's not going to be as good as Trent, but he'll be fine. That's how I saw Simicast when Robertson was the main left back. That's how I saw Kelleher. There are some really good squad players in that team, and I think Bradley can do a really good job. But yeah, I think if Trent does go, I will be upset. And it has to be to the point where there's nothing we can do to persuade Trent. There's nothing we can do, and Trent, he's saying I'm definitely leaving. Yeah, let's see if we can get Tchouameni. Why not? But yeah, I still won't be happy, even if that does happen. I don't let that type of deal happen, because if Trent's a top player, the world top player, you've got your best year ahead of him. So it will still feel like a massive blow. And then again, we still leave us a bit empty as well, because we need to get another right back in as well, because we can't just have Bradley as right back. We need somebody else. So yeah, it'll still be a massive blow regardless.
Well, Winston says it's either we lose him for free or he resigned. The decision's in his hands, and it is, and that's sad. But for the next month or 2 months at least, Liverpool have the ability to muster up a deal regarding him. It's not until January where he can decide what he wants to do. At the moment, we hold all the cards in terms of if we want to use you to bring in a player, we will use you to bring in a player. That's just the way it is. And we shouldn't be talking about Trent like this, but it's just to play the sort of devil's advocate. But we're going to move on to the next topic, because Trent isn't the only one who's linked to being leaved, although I think this one's quieting down a bit. Mohamed Salah, who I think is a debate the least talked about of the free in terms of the free contract situation at the moment. I think his sort of the fire around him has died down since he commented on it after the United game. I think it just sort of went from 0 to 100, and now it's gone back down to 10, whereas everyone else is just gradually creeping up. Salah may be leaving, so we need another right winger, obviously, because Quansah is injured. Shock, horror, Thiago is back. But we're linked to Omar Marmoush now. He is, or Marmoush, however you pronounce it, I'm not entirely sure. He's the right winger for Eintracht Frankfurt. He's 25 years old, and in 8 Bundesliga games this season, he's got 9 goals and 4 assists. He's an Egyptian international, so he obviously plays with Salah. And he actually commented on us a few weeks ago saying that, you know, he knows the history of the club, he knows how big of a club it is. He doesn't know what his future holds. Now, Willem, of course, it almost feels a bit too perfect, I think, in terms of this talented right winger who'd be joining us at the same age Salah did, Egyptian player, very good on the ball. And I'm not going to cast the stats up just yet, but in terms of his attacking output, he is absolutely ridiculous from what I'm seeing. So, I mean, what do you think of this link to Marmoush?
I think it would be a really good signing, but for me, it's someone who you sign whilst also still extending Salah. Because for me personally, right, because that is also one thing. More in the sense, I'd actually also like to know how you two think about it. Because for me personally, out of the 3, Van Dijk and Salah are the 2 most irreplaceable ones out of the 3. Trent for me is, at the end of the day, more replaceable than Salah and Van Dijk. Salah more in the sense of like just still the continuous help, but I know he's frustrating sometimes to look at in games because he now has slightly lost a yard of pace, and he does have to play a bit differently. But the goals and assists he gets, and when he's on it still, and when he does the outside of the boot pass, and like for just a lack of right wingers as well that really truly can put in an output in that sense. For me, there is no question about it. Where even though the fire's died down, I'm very worried that we need to get his contract sorted, in my opinion, because even with Salah and Van Dijk, it's worth getting. Even if we sign him on a 3-year extension, it's worth them being crap that last year, in that kind of sense. Because then, if we properly prepare for it and already kind of cover the position, it's a perfect transition while they still kind of learn from the 2 of the best players we've had in this modern era to do it pretty much. And I think Marmoush would be perfect, also in the sense that he also plays as a striker. And with Jota also, Jota being Jota and getting his injuries throughout the season, and Núñez's output not always necessarily being the greatest one as well, I think it also gives that flexibility in the front line again to kind of go. AFCON's still obviously going to be a problem because we'd still have a right winger and a striker who would essentially be going to AFCON every 2 years. But at this point as well, it is what it is, because if we happen to have 2 Japanese players instead, they'd be getting the Asia Cup every 4 years as well, coming around that period. So, it's to say, if we have the Euros in the winter, all our players would be going to the Euros as well. So I think at that point now, with those kind of tournaments, I'm just like, look, you got to accept it. It's people playing for their countries. The pride's going to play in there. They're going to do that. But yeah, no, to come back onto it, I think it would be a very good signing, but it's a signing that has to be made along with what we have already.
Yeah. Well, Willem, what was the question that you wanted to that you were asking about? Which of the 3 was it that you wanted?
Yeah, so more in the sense of like, as in for the 3 players who our contracts have down, which one would you say is the most replaceable out of the 3?
Arnold,
do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I've always find it hard to say who's the one we can't afford to lose the most, second, third. I think I'll change it quite a bit. I think I'd probably say Salah, but I don't want to lose him. I don't mean I want to lose him. It's just I think
to clarify, I don't want to lose any of them. I have to say.
I just think with attackers, they're a lot easier to find. There's always top attackers out there anyway. Like I said, if Marmoush comes in, okay, he might not be at the same level of salary straight away, but he's certainly on fire at the moment in Bundesliga. He's looking really good. He can play in all three positions, and he'll be an exciting addition alongside all the other good attackers we've got already. We do have 5 other good attackers. Well, Chase, I know he's injured, but yeah. And then Trent, I think Trent is just so rare. Like, have a player like that good as a right back with that technical ability and the stuff he does, it's unreal. I don't know how we can find someone exactly like him. And then obviously Virgil van Dijk is that captain, and just, you know, he was up there in Ballon d'Or, like second in that 2018-19 season, like just unreal. So if I had to say someone, I'll say Salah unwillingly.
Oh, I don't know.
Could I put my argument behind to why it's Trent?
Yeah.
It's actually got to do with slot system as well. I think what Trent kind of brings us attacking wise in the previous club systems, we haven't really been seeing so far in the slot system either necessarily. I think his role has been changed, and therefore I do think that Bradley, along with a more natural right back, to put it that way, because like I said before, Trent is unique. He is literally a unicorn at that position. There's no one around like him. I do think kind of in the way that we set up and the way that we play our system now, I do think in that sense he's become more replaceable compared to the other two, whereas Verge is still our rock at the back along with Konaté, and we're all very scared also at the concept of the idea of one of them two being out injured for a while. And
yeah,
I'd still say the same for Salah. With just we know with Salah every season we're getting at least 18 to 20 Premier League goals, and we're getting at least 12 assists out of it as well. And it's just the consistency in the output of what we can get the entire time, which is so hard to find, specifically for his position. Again, if Salah was a left winger, it would be easy. It would genuinely. If you look as well, just in general in world football, the amount of left wingers there are who are quality compared to right wingers is baffling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can particularly replace any of them, but I think you've actually switched, because my first answer was going to be Verge, only because I think there's a bigger plethora of centre backs you could bring in, and I think that Konaté this season is showing that if he can stay fit, he's capable of filling in that leadership role. And then you've got Quansah, who is coming through, and you've got other centre backs you can maybe bring in. And in my mind, I thought, well, you can't replace what Trent does. But in actuality, I think you are right that Slot has sort of not stifled, but he has sort of restricted Trent to a point. I think he doesn't want him to go creative and long unless there's no other option going on. Or the only other times you see it is if Diaz has clear space and there's no other option, because we've seen that Slot isn't afraid to go route one at points. Like, how many times did Kelleher against Arsenal lump it long? Like, so I think you're right, to be fair. I think you've actually swayed me. Trent would probably be the one of the three that I think is the most expendable. And also because if Salah goes, there's no right winger ready. Chiesa is injured. Ben Doak probably isn't going to reach that level, or Cade Gordon. I wish they could. But whereas if Trent goes, you've got Conor Bradley, who seamlessly at points last season fit into that position when Trent was out injured. So there's a replacement there ready to go. Not to the same level, of course, but he's capable of passing. He's capable of crossing when he needs to. He's very good defensively, arguably better defensively, you could say, than Trent. So there is an option there. So I think you've swayed me.
I saw as well yesterday that, like, online there was a lot of people giving Bradley criticism, whereas like my first thought was like, he's literally not played for nearly a month, and his first game in, he's had Minte for the first 60 minutes, and then he's had Mitoma that he's had to deal with for the last 35 minutes as well.
And he's been injured.
I thought he did solid. Yeah, no, and
yeah.
I thought he did solid. I thought he did really well. So like, that kind of also gives me that quiet confidence where I'm like, okay, Bradley hasn't really, at least for me personally, he hasn't really dropped off from the first season yet, and it kind of like first proper season being back into the squad, and it kind of does seem that he's keeping that level up. So in that kind of sense as well, just seeing what's coming through and what the options are, I think if I have to pick one of the three, I think he is probably, the right back position is probably one that we can address a bit more swiftly to kind of replace properly.
I think he's the one who's the most replaceable, but at the same time, he's the one that I want to keep the most of the free.
Yeah.
It's a really
Yeah.
weird
No,
scenario.
it's a really weird conundrum. Like I've had the exact same thing where I'm like, I'm desperate to keep him, but I can also see a way forward.
Yeah, I think you changed my mind again now as well.
Yeah, literally. Because I was so adamant it was Van Dijk in my head, and then the more I'm going on, I'm like, oh yeah, actually, to be fair, Trent. Yeah,
It's just
know.
for me, Van Dijk's the most unique defender I've ever seen. So, like, as in for me, as long as he's relatively at the level where he's always at, and for me, there is no like even if we get one of these top class prospects coming in like a Luke Haber or like someone else, it's not Verge. Like, and even the guy who I rate closest to him, Saliba, it's still not Verge. It's just not.
Yeah, and I think as well, like Van Dijk, the way he's going at the minute. Like you look at Thiago Silva, how long he went for at the top level. John Terry, maybe not Rio Ferdinand, he declined quite quick, but Alessandro Nesta, Maldini, like there's so many centre backs who go until they're in the 40s because they learn how to, more so than using their pace and physicality, they're intelligent and they're able to position themselves well. And I think Van Dijk is becoming one of those centre backs, and you could keep him for another 5 years, and I think he'd still be at a top level. Maybe not the best, but he's still up there, I think, amongst them. And it just with because we've got like 5 minutes left, we'll carry on just a little bit of Omar Marmoush, because like you said, he is technically a striker, but he can play right winger. But this also factors into the fact that Liverpool wouldn't be wanting to sign him until next summer. And at that point, we may have lost Salah. Nunez, I don't want to particularly lose him, but he is someone who, the more I'm looking at, I'm thinking you probably could move on. He could probably leave. Anil, what does the signing make sense for next summer, given everything going on at the minute?
Yeah, I think so. I think at the start of the season, I circled that striker position as the area that we could potentially target in the summer. Well, that was before Chase had his injury problems. I was hoping that it would be really good rotation option with Salah. But even still, because Jota with his injury problems and Nunez, we can't rely on him. We don't know what Nunez is going to turn up. I'm actually getting to that point now where I'd rather keep Nunez instead of Jota, because I've seen Jota get injured too many times. Even though Jota is that guy, and it takes one chance to score, but we can't have a player who just keep getting injured. And I think this season was like enough for me. So like Marmoush, he looks really like exciting. He looks like a typical Edward type signing. He can play across the 3 positions as well. He's quick. He's scoring at a ridiculous rate at the moment. He's on fire. So he's definitely the guy for me that I'm excited about. Like if we do place a striker, and I know I've seen like I know what you were saying, William, about Amorim going. So maybe Guy Harris, he might leave Sporting as well. I wouldn't mind him, but I still prefer Marmoush just because he's playing in the Bundesliga. It's a bit more of a credible league, and I just like it actually. I think he's really quick. He looks good. I think from what I've seen on YouTube, I know YouTube always had a full story, but I like what I look. I like what I see. I think that's definitely something we should be looking at in the next summer. We definitely give it a whole season. Like, I wouldn't be looking in January. I want to wait the whole season to see what Nunez can do, because Nunez might turn it around. But I think regardless, because of got injury problems, I want us to get a striker no matter what, even if Nunez is doing well or not. So, yeah.
Just on top of so I said before, he had 9 goals and 4 assists in 8 games in the Bundesliga. He's also got 1 goal and 2 assists in 2 DFB Pokal games, and he's got 1 goal and 1 assist in 3 Europa League games. So he's that's consistency, that, and it's not just in the Bundesliga, it's in Europe as well. So there's clearly talent there. But like, just with the minute or two we've got left, I mean, Willem, he would cost a bomb. Surely he would absolutely cost a fortune. We'd have to raise funds for him, surely.
Do you mean for Marmoush?
For Marmoush, yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think necessarily. I think it depends as well. Like, so look, so this is also kind of how screwed up the modern market's become now. So I look at it, so what I reckon Frankfurt will ask about 55, 60 million euros. Nowadays, and even though it's completely bonkers saying it, that is almost like what the Salah Mane 35 million pound, 40 million pound kind of signings were back in the day because of like this inflation going on and going up. So if I can't really at the same time, because Frankfurt, the position they are in as a club, like I think they're always kind of on the higher mid-table kind of spectrum and maybe getting into those Europa League spots, but not often much more. And it being the Bundesliga as well, the Bundesliga isn't really a league necessarily renowned for asking hundreds of millions of euros from their players. Like, they could start doing it. And for all we know, after this season, they could all of a sudden say, hey, why don't we do like the rest of the countries and just ask for ridiculous amounts of money for our players? But so like that could still change. I think it would probably be about 60 million pounds maximum that we'd probably end up paying him for at most. But apparently now with Amorim leaving, I saw that they're reporting now as well that with Gyökeres, they're going to be doing the same, where Sporting is saying that around 60, 70 million euros, it will be enough in the summer also to kind of get him to move on. So actually, funnily enough, if you kind of look at the striker market, it is kind of slowly opening up a little bit in options as well into coming in. So I do think for next summer, we do need to be proactive and kind of need to go into one, because I was also saying to a couple of friends of mine, like, it's almost now to a point with Núñez and with Jota that I think kind of we're at a point now where one has to go, where it's like, and it's for completely different reasons. So like Jota's for the injuries, where you just it's just so frustrating to have him out so many months in the season every time, but you know what he brings and you know exactly what he can give you. And with Núñez, it's more you know what he brings, but the numbers are like one of kind of the lesser things that he brings. And you know, sometimes for me personally, for example, his technique and his footballing IQ kind of leaves, you know, it leaves kind of more things to be desired as well. But he works his socks off. And like, I think with Núñez, at the end of the day, the biggest problem is that just the price tag that we paid for him. If he was half the price, I don't think any of us would be complaining to keep him in as a squad option. But the fact that we've ended up paying 80 to 85 million pounds, and the way we kind of do our business, it is kind of getting to a point now as well where we have to look at it and like, look, we have to kind of cash in at some point, or at least get the most amount of cash back that we can from the investment, and look how to reinvest it into that position. So I think in that sense, that's going to be more interesting for the summer, mostly kind of that position next coming up, and then. I think January we might be more lenient into looking for a right winger and a left back. I don't think it will be much more than that. So it would kind of depend on how we see Marmoush as well playing for us.
Yeah, and you know what? If we manage to sign Marmoush, absolutely fine. But that is going to wrap up for today, because we have hit 8:30. I apologize again for me coming on a minute or two late. You can blame the camera that you're watching me on right now. Just before we do, we're just going to have a quick crack at Man United's expense. Little fact for you. So Sir Alex Ferguson, in his 27 years at Manchester United, spent £392 million. That's in 27 years. Erik ten Hag, in 2 years, spent £616 million. And he still did shit. James asks, how many signatures do you have on the shirt? So that yellow shirt's got the entire 21-22 team signatures on. That one's got the entire 22-23, and then that one's got the football's got the entire 23-24. You can thank my father-in-law for that, because he's a good egg. But thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Willem and Anil, for coming on and joining us. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. UK time, for the next live stream. Thank you very much for watching.